Hi, everyone. Welcome to Anita Sharma Presents. Today, we're discussing India's foreign policy as this country walks a very delicate diplomatic tightrope. Now, New Delhi is looking east, specifically exploring possible trade ties with China. Some may find this surprising, and others may say it's about time, especially given the pressures that India is facing with respect to the U.S. I'm very pleased to be joined by Avatans Kumar. He's based in Chicago. He's a linguist, a columnist. He's won a whole host of awards, and he's also an expert on South Asian affairs. Avatans, always great to be with you, sir.
Thank you very much for having me on your show, Anita.
What do you think about what's happening? Let's start macro, and then we'll go into a micro discussion. But first of all, India and China this past week decided to work towards mending ties. How about that?
I think the relationship between India and China have been very delicate, especially after the Galwan fight. It was literally a fight, people, because that's a no weapon zone. So the only way you can be there is without weapons. So people fought with like machetes and all kinds of non-lethal weapons. So it was a fight. But then after that, I think they have been trying to mend their ways. But and I think because it was also a scheduled trip. It wasn't like a reactionary trip by Prime Minister Modi. Um, but you have to keep in mind, you have to be very careful with China. Uh, President Trump will be gone in 2028, 29, but Xi is president for life. And the Communist Party, you have to be very careful with that. So I think India is exploring all opportunities, but I think they're also mindful of what they can do with China.
If it weren't for the trade pressures that India is facing with respect to the US, it really wouldn't be moving closer towards China. And what we're hearing from both sides is now is the time for both of these countries to come together, try to put their differences aside. You just alluded to some big wars that they fought and some extreme tension, some significant tension between these two powerhouse countries. How would these two countries be able to move forward in a short term? We're talking the next couple of years.
It is very difficult to gauge what the China would do, but we have a huge. Yeah, actually, both U.S. and India have huge trade deficit with China.
Mhm.
Um, Even Indian markets are flooded with cheap Chinese goods. So it's not only the border problem, but also the trade problem and also spying problem. You have to keep in mind that China is in bed, or Pakistan is in bed with China. Pakistan, the western neighbor of India, and arch enemy for ever since its inception as a country in 1947. So it is a very delicate balance, and we will have to see what they can do. I think what we have to keep in mind is that it is not a short-term reactionary. I hope it is not a short-term reactionary uh, step
Yeah.
to counter Trump and USA, but hopefully it is more constructive, long-term kind of deal that will help both the countries. You have to also keep in mind both these countries are the oldest civilizations in the world. So there is some connection in that respect. But with the way the Chinese Communist Party has gone in the last several decades, and India's own history, border disputes starting from 1962 and all, um, you cannot be just washed away.
You know, when we talk about the relationship between India and the US, you talked about over the last few decades, India and the US didn't really have a close relationship for all the reasons you mentioned. That has changed, one would think, over the last decade or so, maybe a couple of decades with George Bush moving forward through Obama, Clinton, and now Trump, especially during US President Donald Trump's first term. What changed in that relationship where when these two countries were finally starting to get closer together and forge a new way forward amidst this changing geopolitical stage, what changed where India has had to explore other trade relationships now, much like the rest of the world is doing right now?
Right. So let me just take a few seconds back and situate the our conversation. We all know that the situation, that diplomatic relations between U.S. and India have improved significantly in the last few decades. And as you rightly mentioned, since the time of President George Bush and Manmohan Singh was the Prime Minister of India, the nuclear deal, what happened, and after that, every Prime Minister of India and every President of US, they have worked very closely with each other to improve the relationship. You remember when Prime Minister Modi, when he first became the prime minister and came to the US, he gave a speech to the US Congress and he talked about overcoming the hesitations of history.
Yeah.
And that reminds me another thing that reminds me of a PhD thesis of former US Ambassador Rich Verma. He wrote a PhD thesis also. I think it's called Overcoming the Hesitations in History. And in his thesis, he writes clearly, and I'm going to paraphrase it, that despite all the improvements in the relationship and situation, nobody can say that both US and India have become partner or allies or great friends. No one in the US does. So having said that, we have India or US, they have to still walk a long distance and keep that in mind. So that's why some of the issues that come up and the legacy of the Cold War era, and a lot of people entrenched, their, roji roti, as we say in
Mhm.
Hindi, is entrenched in those ideologies, and they are still very powerful. So, there is anti-India lobby, you can say, works hard, and uh, they pull in different directions. So now, specifically coming back to President Trump, remember some of the irritants that we are facing right now, the India is facing right now, like trade barriers, tariffs, Russian oil. Except for Russian oil, tariffs were also an issue in the first term of President Trump. Uh,
Right.
remember the dispute about Harley Davidson that made big news. Um, and Russian oil was also a big issue during President Biden's term. Uh, I don't know if you remember uh, two very significant episodes. One when National Security Advisor Dalip Singh, he went to India along with around the same time. Then Victoria Nuland went to Deputy Secretary of State, or I don't remember her exact designation. They went to India. Uh, Dalip Singh came out after meeting some of the Indian delegation and actually basically threatened on the spot in Delhi itself of grave consequences of India buying Russian oil. But now the situation has changed in the sense that a lot of diplomacy in President Trump's term is being done on Truth Social and social media. A lot of issues that would have been discussed in the diplomatic circles, closed doors, is now discussed, on the social media or even on the mainstream media. So a lot of things have come out in public, and that has created a lot of bad feelings in India, especially because people were very excited about President Trump's second term. India had pujas, havans, and all kinds of things for President Trump's victory leading up to election. India was prepared to have tariff disputes with USA. What hurt India the most is President Trump's overtures towards Pakistan. First, during the Operation Sindoor, he claimed that he mediated, which is totally a no-no if you're in India or any, just the Indian citizen, ordinary Indian citizen, diplomat, politician. That's a big no-no. They don't want any mediation by anybody. There's a very good book by TV Paul that I reviewed a couple of maybe a few months ago that takes the India's quest for world power through Nehru to Modi. And I think if your viewers want to read that, either my review or the book itself should give you a good summary of what has gone so far.
Uh, I do want to shift gears and talk a little bit about the UK, specifically the UK Charity Commission. There was some news that came out whereby the regulator for the charities in England and Wales, it was involved in a notable case concerning the display of Khalistan plaques in a Gurdwara in Berkshire. Now, I believe this issue started in 2019. An Indian journalist highlighted the fact that she saw this Khalistan board at the Gurdwara. This prompted an investigation by the Charity Commission. And to make a long story short, it looks like they had initially ruled that the Gurdwara would have to make some changes with respect to this newfound news, if you will. But then there was an about face done in August of this year, where the Charity Commission concluded that the quote unquote Khalistan boards did not breach its political guidance, that they said that they lacked separatist messaging and aligned with the Gurdwara's religious objectives. What can you tell us about this particular story?
So, Khalistan is a very emotive issue in India, and now it has become an international issue because of the diaspora involvement. As many of viewers may know, that the Khalistan movement, a separatist movement, was very dominant in the 80s in India, where a lot of people got killed, hundreds, several thousand, tens of thousands of people were killed, through all kinds of terrorist activities. Buses would be blown off. I was, in college and high school. At that time, we would read about those things, and there will be notices about in public. So don't touch, anything that is unattended, and things like that. So there will be bombs going off all over the places. So, but it was mostly localized in Punjab area. But then it died down. So, but now in some of the Western countries, including U.S., Canada, U.K., New Zealand, and Australia, some of these elements have resurfaced, and they're asking for Khalistan. In India, there is no such demand at all. In almost zero, I would say, almost zero of that kind of elements in India anymore. It's very peaceful. Punjab is very peaceful. They have their democratic local government, state government, and all that. And
There a couple of years ago, it just seems
yeah,
like everyone's just working collectively to just move forward economically and just continue to build on prosperity.
right. Especially, I think in the U.S., one of the things that has happened over time is a lot of illegal immigration from Punjab, and those illegal immigration were eventually turned into asylum, and the basis of that asylum was they are being targeted by the Indian government. And so that has become, that is kind of foundation of that kind of feeling within the US, or the movement for Khalistan, that you have, if you want to live in the US, you'll give you asylum. And the various elements in that ecosystem make you turn into a Khalistani. So I'm not surprised those things are happening, um, but I want to turn into something a little bit more philosophical. Is that growing up, I'm 50 plus, and we never had any issue. Uh, we always thought that the Sikhs were part of the Sanatan ecosystem, tradition. And there is,
We're intermarried, right? I mean, it seems to be perhaps was, is, I don't know, but at one point a political issue, but certainly family ties run very deep here.
not just intermarrying.
Yeah.
Uh, Even I know people, personally know people, one of my professors, his family, so they're Hindu, Khatris, and there has been a tradition for generations to give up the first child, male child, as Khalsa. Yes. So that's how the 10th Guru established the Khalsa Panth, the fighting tradition. Uh, Kesh, Kara, Kapan, and Kanga. So you carry these and you live a fighter's life, and you protect the Hindu Dharma. That was their mandate. So, and that's how they asked for the oldest male child to be given up to the cause of Dharma.
Mhm.
So I don't know how it has become, and a lot of people blame the British colonialism and their census issues for that. Um, but it is an issue, and specifically to the what you were talking about in the UK, it is very disconcerting in many ways that you know um, I understand the concept of free speech and you can put whatever you want to, but would the UK allow a sign in any of the Indian establishments in India talking about the separation of Ireland and other part of the Isles? I don't know. Those are the questions we have to ask.
Well, I don't want to leave this interview on a doom and gloom note. I want to go back to our original topic, our first topic, where we discussed just the whole tariff dispute taking place globally, and India's movement, it seems, towards China. Let me ask you this final question. What what excites you most at this point in time with respect to where we are and how we can move forward? What excites you, or what are you looking forward to?
One of the most underrated, at least in the outside world, of President Trump's election has been his fight against wokeism. And that was the biggest issue that made him the second term president. I don't know what's going to happen when the next president comes in, but he is fighting that battle, and he has a large support within the U.S. for that. And one of the reasons that the EU and other European countries are facing some wrath from the US establishment is because of their left wing ideology, the climatism and other woke ideas that we call here. Um, and having said that, India was in the good books because Modi is not a left wing, So again, it's very perplexing. I don't know. I can't answer why. But for EU and the West, it's very much part of that agenda. And he is going out, uh, 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 on that agenda very strongly. You can see him doing it every day, like fertilizing DC right now, going after all the Ivy League colleges, they all folded. They're all paying fines now. They're all getting rid of DEI and skin-based, color-based affirmative action, which is now illegal in the U.S., unconstitutional. So you can see that some of these things happening, and illegal immigration for sure. It is a big issue. ICE have been hiring people like crazy all the time. So we'll see.
Interesting time as trade relationships are some are being reestablished, others are, as we talked about it, specifically this one, being reexamined, and perhaps maybe changed significantly. So it certainly
And
is.
he said, President Trump has been saying that he's trying to reestablish the new world order and demolish the old world order. And I think he is pretty, swiftly moving in that direction. He realized that he has only a couple of years left. You mentioned that he may come back, but I don't think that's a possibility because constitutionally he's not allowed to. So I will put that only as a conspiracy theory or kind of, some people who are just trying to scare people. But I don't think that's a possibility. Other thing I also want to mention is that he also wants to um, reposition the U.S. I think he recognizes the importance of AI, artificial intelligence, and that's why he uh, kind of it's a capitalist Trump owning 10% of Intel shares, right? It's a very it's an irony, but I think he recognizes the power of AI and the role that AI is going to play in the coming century or whatever. So his clamoring for rare earth, for example, Greenland, acquiring Greenland, I see that, and a couple of other, um, uh, you know, specialists also see that light.
Yeah, AI, a whole different beast altogether. But we'll save. We'll continue the tech chat in
Okay,
another conversation. Avatans, it's always great to connect with you. Thank you for diving deep into these topics and giving us an idea of what's going on. And I'm looking forward to our next discussion soon. So thanks for this, and we'll talk to you real soon.
thanks, good, thanks for having me. Good talking to you.